Hello, my name is Andrew. Our group is the Psy Guys. We chose to do the game project for our final project, and the specific game we chose was chess.
My name is Pavatar Singh. I'm also a Psy Guy member, and yeah, we did chess.
Yeah, and I'm Brian.
So the previous piece type property is basically used for the turn system and basically making it so that if we click a piece of the previous piece type color, it'll throw an error because we cannot do two same colors in the same row. We cannot move them. The game mode property is basically for remote and local gameplay. It's for ThinkSpeak. The status is basically just the status of the game. Once the game is over and someone wins, the status is set to over, and then we cannot click anything until we restart the game. The player color, iteration number, channel ID, read key, write key, and URL are all for ThinkSpeak.
So for the base of our code, we have this coordinate system for all the pieces and the indicators. So 30 would be the bottom left here, and we would increment by 60 going up and down for each position on the board. And here we have variables for each of the starting positions of each of the pieces. Okay, so this is the change position chords. This will take an input of the string name and an x and y coordinate that we want to change the piece to. And what it'll do is it'll just change the piece to the x and y coordinates that we input. So this is the put black coordinates into array. So what this does is it'll put all the x coordinates of all the black pieces into one array, and it'll do the same for y, and then it'll output that. And the same goes for the put white coordinates into an array. This is the check for black piece. What this does is it will check if there's a black piece in the spot in the input here, and the check for white piece does the same thing as well. These four functions here, what they basically do is they'll take an input and they'll check to see if that input is on the edge of the board. So each function is for one side of the board, so check positive x would be this side, and so on for the other sides.
So the piece clicker function, all it does is it takes in the selected piece's color and compares it to the previous piece type property, and if they match, it throws an error. If it doesn't match, then it basically just calls the move piece function, and then the logic is there for both local and remote gameplay. So the move made function, it takes in the indicator's color and name, and if the indicator's color, like the dot color, if it's red, then a function is called to kill that piece because the red indicates an attack move, and it also plays a clash sound because we attacked. If the dot is blue, we just play a move sound. It was just like a general standard move. If the game mode is local, we update the previous piece and we change the turn label. If the game is remote, we change the turn label and then we write to ThinkSpeak the iteration number +1, the name of the piece that we just moved, the x and y coordinate of the piece that we just moved, and then the move type, which is again determined by the color of the dot. And then we throw the player into the check for update function. The kill black piece function, what it does is it takes in the x coordinate and the y coordinate and it compares it to every piece of that color. And whichever piece matches that color, we basically make it invisible, and then we update its x and y coordinate internally. And if the piece is actually the king, then we run a game over function. That exact same function is also here for white pieces as well, and it does the exact same thing. So the game over function, all it does is it displays a victory label, basically saying, we colored one, and then it makes the restart game button visible, it makes the turn label invisible, and it makes the status of the game over because the game's done. And then the restart button, it can be clicked to basically reset the game.
For the move piece function, it starts by making all the indicators invisible and setting them all to blue. And then it proceeds into a bunch of if-else statements that basically decides the path of each piece, depending on which piece is clicked. And it does this through two main methods. One is by using set coordinates that are assigned to a certain variable, such as path 1, path 2, path 1 through 8. And it will check the indicator's coordinates with those paths, and if they meet certain conditions, such as if there's an enemy there or if the space is clear, the indicator will turn on, allowing it to move there, or take a piece if the enemy is there. And the other option was basically a fanning out from the piece's current position. This was applied to rooks and bishops, for example, and they basically just check the current coordinates and then fan out in specific directions, whether that be diagonally or straight up, left, or right, as needed. And it uses for loops and breaks to basically stop the code from going further and highlighting after a piece. And then it'll also check that piece if it's an enemy. It'll allow you to attack and take the piece.
So the reset game function, what it does is, it does what its name says it does. Basically, it makes the previous piece type black, and then if it's a local game, then it makes the turn label white, say white's turn, and then does the same kind of logic for if it's a remote game. And then what it does is it makes the turn label invisible, or it makes it visible, the error label invisible, the victory label invisible, the restart game button invisible, and it makes the status of the game progressing. And then we basically just update every single piece's visibility and their positions to the original position of when the game first started. So for the init remote function, what it does is it gets the data from the ThinkSpeak channel, from the first field of the ThinkSpeak channel, and basically it checks the length of the data. If the length of the data is 0, that means that it's empty, and that indicates to us that no player has entered the game. And if no players entered the game, then we make it white, the current player white, and then we update the ThinkSpeak channel to basically say now there is a player, and then we basically just update the turn label and the iteration number. If the data is 1, that means there's already a player there, so that means that we are now the black player, and then it updates our turn label, the iteration, and then we get thrown into a check for update function, which basically allows us, like, it doesn't allow us to do anything until the other player makes that move. So the check for update function, what it does is it runs an infinite while loop until the scoped iteration number equals the app iteration number plus 1. Basically, inside the loop, we basically just read the second field of the ThinkSpeak channel, and that second field, it has, basically every single thing that the other player does. Once the scoped iteration number is 1 plus equals the iteration number plus 1, that indicates to us that the other player made a move. Once they have done that, we update the piece that they moved to the position that they moved it to. If they made a kill move, then we basically call the kill function respectively for whichever piece. We play a clash sound, and then if they didn't make a kill move, they made a move function, that we play a move sound. We update our turn label, we update the iteration number, and then we also basically update the internal properties for the x and y coordinates with wherever they move that piece to.
The callback for clicking on a piece, it will change a field. It will change the edit field value to the specific piece and call it piece handler function if the game is not over. This allows us to, again, check which piece it is and assign the path and indicator as.
So for the callback for clicking on any indicator, it'll update the position of the piece to the position of the indicator, and then it'll also change the coordinates of our internal variables coordinates for that piece, and then it'll also specify what type of move was made, whether it was just a move or killing another piece, and then we'll use all that to run the move made function.
The cancel move button, what it does is it makes every single indicator invisible. It takes the current piece's color type and makes the previous piece type the opposite color. So if the current piece is white, then the previous color is black. This just makes it so that there's continuity and then there's no issues. If we click a piece, the remote button, what it does is it makes the lamp for the remote, it turns it on, it disables the remote button, it enables the local button, and it makes the local lamp, turns it off, basically, just makes the color white. The game mode is turned to remote, and then the turn label is basically made to say connecting, and then we reset the game, and then we call the initial remote function. If the local button is pushed, then we basically do the complete opposite of what we did initially in the remote button push. We turn off the lamp for remote, we disable the local button, and then we make the game mode local. We just clear the player color, and then we reset the game, and then we do a delete request to the ThinkSpeak channel, which basically just wipes the entire channel. This is the callback for the restart button. Basically, once we click it, it just calls the reset game function. The last function down there, that's run when we close our app. It basically sends a delete request to our ThinkSpeak channel, and it just wipes it clean, and then it turns off the app.
So I'll start off by showcasing the local gameplay, and this will be a very simplified chess game just to show the main features. So as you can see, path indicators were pawn when they clicked on. Then it's black's turn. Rotate over. Again, switch back to the other turn. And we can take a piece, as you can hear, the piece taking sound. And the victory screen. We start the game, and it'll just restart the board to the original.
This is my screen right here. Now it's telling me it's my turn because Andrew already made his move. If I do this, it's going to give me an error because I can't click the white piece because I'm not white. Then I click the black one, and then I can move it down here. Just try and take my piece, alright? Just try and take my king. Yeah, just do that. Oh, what? Okay. Okay. So in both of our UIs, it updates, which player won. And once I click restart game, it's going to tell me that I have to wait for my opponent. And then once he clicks, then it's his turn because he's still white.